Hi there, this is Solitary Ronin from Solitary Ronin Films, and welcome to another episode of Filmstock. Today I'm just going to chat about 10 director-actor collaborations by their numerosity, starting at number 10 with an actor who's worked with the directors 9 times. So I'm going to talk about the collaborations, the number of films that they did together, and how many of those films that I've seen. I am not going to talk about John Ford and John Wayne. I'll get to their number when I get to somebody else who has the same amount of numbers in their collaboration. I don't have any John Ford, John Wayne collaborations, because again, this is more of a personal list, plus of the ones that I actually have in the collection. So number 10, as I said, is an actor who's collaborated with the directors, plural, 9 times. It helps if you're married to one of the directors. It's Frances McDormand and the Coen brothers, of course. She's married to Joel Coen since 1984, I think. So she's appeared in 9 Coen brother films, and I have seen all 9 of their films. I don't think we need to talk about how wonderful Frances McDormand is, but I didn't actually realise her real name is Cynthia Ann Smith. So for such a common name as Smith, Frances McDormand has magnificently ascended the name of Smith. So even she'll be in little parts like in Miller's Crossing, a kind of blink and you'll miss it performance, and obviously things like Fargo, where she's pretty much the lead in that film and grounds the film with a very kind of moral centre despite all the immorality that's going on around her. So at number 9, with 10 films, is probably the kind of number 1 or number 2 if you asked the general film going public about famous collaborations. It's Scorsese and De Niro with 10 films. Now I've only seen 8 of them. Technically it's 11 because they did a short film, The Audition, but I'm not really counting short films here, I'm counting feature films. So it is 10. Obviously a lot of these are seminal, but I've only seen 8 because I haven't seen The Irishman. Well, I've seen 20 minutes of it before I fell asleep. I'll see it at some point. And I haven't seen The Killers of the Flowers of the Blood Moon. Killer Flowers from the Blood Moon. Again, I'll see that at some point, but I haven't yet. So obviously my favourites of that collaboration are Goodfellas, even though I don't like it as much as I used to. I mean, his performance is the best, despite Joe Pesci chewing scenery and Ray Liotta being the main focus. De Niro quietly does it all with his eyes and is far scarier than both of them. Obviously Taxi Driver is a pivotal film in American cinema and still actually stands up, which you could argue not all of Scorsese classic films do now. Obviously the King of Comedy, I absolutely adore. Probably the most underrated one's New York, New York, but certainly this would be number 1 or number 2 in people's lists. You know, if you were just asking your average film goer. So number 8 is Ingrid Bergman. I could have actually had Ingmar Bergman on this list 4 times. Obviously, he had a kind of troupe of regulars. Ingrid Thulin would be tied at number 10 with 9 films with Ingmar Bergman. But at number 8, it's probably an actor that you think was in more Bergman films than he actually was. It's still a healthy 11 films together. It's Max von Sydow. This is The Magician. Yeah, Max von Sydow, who I've made the argument before, could possibly be the greatest actor of all time. So I've only seen 10 out of the 11 because I don't think I've seen The Touch with Elliot Gould. It's not in the Bergman box set, and I don't think, when BBC Two showed a Bergman season long ago, I don't think The Touch was included. So I've seen 10 out of the 11 von Sydow parts. Again, sometimes he would have small parts, and sometimes he would be the focus and the lead. But again, he's only down in number 8 with 11 films together. So next up is a director and actor that have climbed the charts of my favourite directors and actors over the last few years. And it's Masaki Kobayashi and Tatsu Nakadai, and they also made 11 films together, of which I have seen 10. I haven't seen The Empty Table, which was made in 1985, the same year Nakadai did Ran, obviously. But I have seen 10 of them, so I'm certainly getting through the Kobayashi back catalogue, even though they're hard to see. But I've picked out Inn of Evil, which I did a random review of recently. This is just absolutely brilliant. It's maybe not top tier Kobayashi, but then top tier Kobayashi is like some of the greatest films ever made. Obviously the two collaborated on The Human Condition, which is counted as 3 films, even though I think I just count it as 1 film. So they did 11 films together. I've seen 10 of them, and none of them are below a 4 out of 5, as much as that means anything. So a pretty spectacular output. So at number 6, we're back to Sweden again for more Bergman, and the highest ranked collaboration with a female actor for Bergman. It's Liv Ullmann with 12. This is Shame, which is just brutal and brilliant. Again, it's one of von Sydow's films as well. Liv Ullmann did 12, even though in some places the internet says 10, but I'm sure it's 12. And I've seen 11 of them. Granted, some of them I need to rewatch because it's been a while, but I'm sure I haven't seen The Magic Flute. Again, back in the days when they used to have Bergman films on terrestrial television. I don't think those days will ever return. I'm sure I never actually saw The Magic Flute. So I think I've still to check that one out. And obviously there's some of his films that I need to rewatch because it's been a while. But Liv Ullmann comes in with 12 films, all with Bergman. So at number 5 is one of my personal favourites, another filmmaker that's quite hard to find his films in decent copies, even on DVD. We're going to go to India, and it's Satyajit Ray and Sumitra Chatterjee, who collaborated on 14 films. I have only seen 10 of them, which is appalling. This is The Coward, or Caparouche, which is a wonderful little film about a writer who gets stranded in the middle of nowhere and comes across this tea plantation and realises that one of his exes is married to the plantation owner, and he gets taken in, and he just kind of recalls his inability to close the deal with this woman and how their relationship fell apart. It's just another one of Ray's quietly wonderful little films, and Sumitra Chatterjee's fantastic in all of Ray's work. So as I said, 14 films together. I haven't seen Distant Thunder, which is just a fantastic title apart from anything else. I haven't seen The Golden Fortress, Kingdom of Diamonds, and Branches of the Tree. Now, again, I'm sure Channel 4 or BBC 2 ran a Ray season, and I'm sure I've seen Branches of the Tree, but I don't have it in the collection. I thought I did a video on it, but I haven't in my Ray series that I did. So officially I haven't seen Branches of the Tree either, so I've only seen 10 out of the 14 Ray Chatterjee collaborations. Next is another Japanese titan who you can probably guess. He's actually in twice in the top 4. It's Kurosawa, of course, and it's perhaps not the actor you think. It's Kurosawa and Toshiro Mifune. This is The Silent Duel, which is perhaps my favourite syphilis film. It's certainly right up there with my favourite syphilis films. Sadly, this is only on DVD, but it's from 1949, the same year as Stray Dog, and it's a tremendous syphilis story. Toshiro Mifune's a surgeon who accidentally contracts it from a soldier, forcing him to abandon his fiancée because he doesn't want to give his fiancée syphilis either, but he doesn't want to tell her because of the shame. It's a fantastic syphilis story. So Kurosawa and Mifune did 16 films together before their falling out, of course, after Red Beard in 1965. And strangely enough, I've seen all 16. Obviously, Mifune's a titan, the same way Nakadai is a titan. And there's a unassuming titan coming up shortly. So at number 3, it's the final entry from Bergman. Again, perhaps not the actor you would think would have the most, but this actor comes in with a staggering 19 collaborations with Bergman, and it's Gunnar Bjornstrand, or Gunnar Bjornstrand even. This is The Seventh Seal, where he plays the assistant to Max von Sydow's knight and injects some humour into the film, much needed humour into the film. So again, he's just ultra reliable, very rarely the starring role, even though in Winter Light he's pretty much the starring role. Again, sometimes like von Sydow he's got small parts, and other times he's got much more chunkier parts, and like Through a Glass Darkly or whatever. But that's 19 films he collaborated with Bergman. I think I've seen about 16 of them, but some of them I probably have seen, but I just haven't seen, or I just haven't rewatched them since I put my collection into Letterboxd, so it looks as though I haven't seen them, but I'm sure I have, but it was just a while ago. But 19 Bergman films, that's pretty impressive. So number 2, we're back to Kurosawa. And with a staggering 21 films out of Kurosawa's 30, way back to Sanshiro Sagata, it's of course Takeshi Shimura. This is Akiru, of course, from 1952, his finest 2 hours 23 minutes. Shimura just quietly brilliant, so flexible. He was in a Godzilla film, for goodness sake, or the Godzilla film. I mean, 21 out of his 30. Again, he could play, he's generally the kind of older guy. Obviously in Seven Samurai he was the sage, even though he's not that much older than Mifune. In Stray Dog he's the kind of grizzled veteran police officer, where Mifune's the young impetuous rookie. maybe not a rookie, but certainly young and impetuous, even though, again, there's not that much difference in age between the two. And there's things that Shimura does that Mifune just probably couldn't do as well, and vice versa. You can't imagine Shimura in that volatile role that Mifune plays in Seven Samurai. You could argue that I Live in Fear, it would have been better if Shimura played the old man rather than Mifune. You could argue Shimura had a bigger range than Mifune did, even though not as many kind of histrionics and not as kind of wide a scope perhaps as Mifune. But Shimura is just class. And he's in second place with a staggering 21 collaborations with Kurosawa. But he's not number one. This might be a little bit of a deep dive, again, a female actor, that it helps if you're married to the director. It is, of course, from France, and it's Claude Chabrol and Stéphane Adran, with a staggering 25 films. So Chabrol did, I think, 50 films, possibly, something around there. In my series, I only did about 27 of them, because, again, you can't find too many, even though I have recently found another one. So I'll be doing an additional Claude Chabrol video, even though I stopped that series about 3 years ago. But 25 films, and as far as I'm aware, I've only seen 12 of them, which is a disgrace, because I love Stéphane Adran. Obviously not as much as Chabrol did, and I love Claude Chabrol. He's just so underrated, because, again, he's not flashy. He just makes fantastic films. So amongst the ones I haven't seen are Good Girls, Violet and Nozière, The Third Lover, Line of Demarcation, Blood Relatives, and there's a whole bunch more, obviously. Maybe one day, Chabrol's getting certainly a bit more exposure with the 2 Arrow box sets, and La Cérémonie getting a Criterion Blu-ray. So hopefully that continues as his kind of rep increases over the years. We don't even have La Bouchée, which is my favourite Chabrol, or The Man Must Die, or Breach, or La Rupture, should I say. So this is an Arrow DVD set. It does have La Biche, which Audran's in, La Femme Infidèle from 1969, which Audran's in. I think she's in Juste Avant la Nuit and La Noche Rouge. Obviously my favourite is La Bouchée. It's just fantastic, from 1970. But Audran at 25. Now, I did mention John Wayne and John Ford earlier, which didn't make my list, even though they had 14 collaborations. Personally, I thought it was actually more than that, but they had 14. Obviously, The Searchers and Stagecoach are probably the most famous. I don't have either of those films. But Ford and Wayne had 14, but they don't make the list. I have Ray and Sumitra Chatterjee instead with 14. So Chabrol and Audran wins this competition with 25 films together, which is quite impressive. Obviously, Chabrol and Huppert had a nice little thing going together. They made 7 films, because they had a big break, I think about 10 years between the first one and then the second one they did together. But yeah, that's a fun exercise. So what are the leading collaborations between directors and actors for you? Please let me know in the comments. Do you have somebody that beats 25 films? Obviously Scorsese and DiCaprio, I've done quite a few, which I don't have any of, I don't believe. But anyway, please let me know in the comments what your favourite director collaborators are, actor collaborations, and hopefully you'll join me again for the every now and again where I do an episode of Filmstock, where I basically talk even more nonsense than I usually do. So thanks so much for watching. This is Solitary Ronan from Solitary Ronan Films, saying farewell.